Okay, this is going to be a quick video covering what I consider the operation of the SP-600 by Hammarlund. Now this is the SP-600-J, the first model, and we'll go over the dial controls real quickly. First of all, we have the crystals. If the radio had crystals, this is where you would select them, and you can tune them with a sort of a delta tuning device. The next thing we have is the DFO, which is calibrated. DFO is calibrated to the what I would call the center slot. You can go down in frequency by a measured amount up to about 3 kilocycles. I usually keep it at 2.5 when I'm using it. 2.5 minus lower sideband on 40 meters. Otherwise, I'll keep it at 0. The RF gain, which is calibrated. And then you have, well, it says modulation, it's actually AM. And then below it is CW, that turns on the beat oscillator. Here you have the ABC, which is the automatic voltage control. When you put on the ABC, it creates a reverse voltage, which is rectified, and it will control the S meter, and it will also control the speed at which the detector conducts. The ABC speed on this is pretty fast, and you can set it off by putting it into manual. Tuning control, which controls both the logging fine tune, and I have to note that the marks on the logging dial, has no relationship with kilohertz whatever. It's absolutely random. And then here's the main tuning control, and you'll notice that there's a number at the very top, 5. And you can tune it down, there's 4, and 3, and so on down to 0. Now, this will correspond to the logging dial here, because each number, 3, 4, or 5, will be calibrated as 1 through 100. Let's go to the very beginning of one of them. This is 5. There we go. And 5 will take you right to about 0. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on. And you can see that this is also turning as you're doing it. And when you get to 0 again, which would be about 100, you're at the top of the reference number. So each number has 0 through 100 on it. And on this receiver, this is your fine tune. And what the operator did was log whatever frequencies they needed. Of course, these receivers were largely used for military or paramilitary service, where they would just use a few frequencies that they would log in. And as such, I also log. I'll show you the logging system that I use. I've got 0 through 100, which matches the dial, the frequencies, and the plotting on this graph what the frequency is. And that's quite accurate. Now this plotting is done with the beat oscillator on at 0, which means that on single sideband, I'll be about 2 to 2.5 kc shy. And you can get to the point where you can read the logging dial when you get used to it to within about a kc. It's very accurate, and it always returns to the same spot. No matter where you go, you can go from one end of the dial clear to the other, but when you come back, there's no backlash. You will go directly to whatever your plotting point is. So that's tuning the SP-600. Some people, and I may do this eventually, get a direct read VFO or a direct readout that will actually read the frequency right off the IF. But jury's out on that. I may do that, but I'm actually getting used to logging. Here's the audio gain. This is the band select. Of course, this chooses your band. This pointer will move up and down, and the band is indicated right here. Selectivity, and there's 6 selection points on here. You've got as wide as 13 kcs, and the first 3 selections are controlled by a circuit cue of a coil and a capacitor. So it's non-crystal. You're just increasing step by step the cue of the coil and, or the tuned circuit through which the RF is being detected. But then when you go to 1.3, now you're engaging the crystal filtering, and that crystal filtering can be phased. So when you're in the 1.3 or the 0.5 or as low as 0.2 kilocycles, these ranges here will engage phasing. And what the phasing does is it will actually notch out a nearby interfering signal, and it's quite effective. And then finally we have the S meter, and the S meter is different than most S meters. It doesn't have S1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so forth. What it does instead is that it recognizes that that 0.01 microvolts is the I'm going to call it the baseline sensitivity of the radio. And what that means is that at 0.01 microvolts, a signal is detected high enough above the noise to be understood or to be easily detected. So that being the case, 0 is the major reference point. So 0 is also equal to S9. So you see that -6 there, that's 6 dBs below the 0 mark, and that would be 2 S units. So that -6 dBs, or -6, would be equivalent to about an S7. And then halfway between that and the bottom point of minimum deflection would be half of that, and then half again, and then half again would equal corresponding S units. Anything over 0 is decibels above S9. So you've got +6, and then 20, 40, 60, 80, and so on. The main thing is that 0, and that would be the top scale, 0 equals S9. Now you can flip it into audio and actually measure the audio. Because right now I've got the audio turned down, so there's no indication. But the switch is a normally closed switch, so it goes automatically back up to RF and engages the S meter. S meter is directly controlled by the RF gain, so long as the AVC is turned on, of course. So let's go ahead and listen to it. Now I copy AM, of course, in the AM mode, which is modulation mode, and I like using the AVC for AM. I keep the gain up to about 6 or 7, which is about maximum for accurate deflection of the S meter. Let's turn the thing on here. I'm in the 40 meter band right now. Okay, and the side band. There's a carrier there. Shortwave broadcaster. Radio PT. I like the song. Okay, so there's AM. Modulation mode is on. RF gain turned up to maximum deflection. And just a little bit of audio because it is hot. I'm not even at 1. Okay, now what about operating the BFO for CW and sideband? Well, it does very well. Now what you want to do there, if you want, what I do is I flip it first into manual, because the AVC is just playing too hot when you've got the beat frequency oscillator on. You want to be able to have enough carrier injection to properly modulate or demodulate the signal that's coming in when you're using the BFO for copying sideband or CW. It's the front end is very hot, very, very hot on this. So you want to attenuate it some. And you go out of modulation mode into CW mode. Then what I do is I've got the RF gain turned up very high. I don't need it that high. I'll bring it down to a 4. But then I need to bring up the audio because I have reduced the RF gain. So I'll bring up the audio. Now, remember the beat frequency oscillator is calibrated. On the plus side, it'll tend to filter or to bring that carrier over to the plus side of 0. We want lower sideband. So I'm going to bring this down to around 2.5. There you go. Make sure we got some sufficient gain. The meter will not be activated in this. Turn up the audio gain. Let's see what we can find. Listen to that carrier as I tune. You can hear it down to 0, but you hardly hear it on the other side. And that's because
SP-600-JX from Whiskey 1 Yankee.
Oh wow, isn't that surprised? Reason for that is because the passband aperture is low enough that it actually will filter out one sideband to a degree. Now let's turn it down to 1.3. Every time I tune them in, they sign off.
November Oscar 5 Foxtrot. November Oscar 5 Fox 808 Bravo Victor 2 Tango Tango 02 Papa Echo.
If there was somebody nearby, I could phase them out. And this actually aids in single signal reception too. Now the SP-600 did come with an optional product detector, but I find that when you balance the RF gain with the audio, with the proper beat oscillator setting, in the proper filtering, with the aid of crystal phasing, you will have single signal reception without the optional processor. I have no problem copying sideband on this radio at all.
Western Washington.
There's some kind of a contest going on right now.
Your number 840 Bravo, check 70 Western Washington.
It's a very hot radio. And so you find yourself actually leaving the audio gain at a particular level and, and using the RF gain as a volume control.
22 Mississippi, and your QSO number was 12 Alpha, is that right? Thank you. CQ contest, Whiskey 7, Whiskey Alpha. Kilo Alpha 2 Kilo. Kilo Alpha 2 Kilo. Your number 841 Bravo, W7WA, 70 Western Washington. Roger, 386, United.
Western Washington, that is a loud signal. I'm in Florida.
Thank you. CQ contest, Whiskey 7, Whiskey Alpha.
Whiskey 7, Whiskey Alpha. There you go.
WQ9 Fox, 842
Now, if I
Bravo,
wanted to
W7WA,
nail it down, I could
70
lock
Western
this,
Washington.
literally lock the dial right there, but I don't really need to. Let's see what's happening down the CW end. Close it up a little bit. Now for CW, you can use the beat oscillator setting to create an audio response at a particular frequency. In other words, you can actually peak the audio, which will serve as a sort of audio filtering. Peaked audio in radio reception is an old technique. It goes back, all the way back to the 1920s. But you can use it here with the beat oscillator. Now in CW, of course, I have it in manual, have it in CW mode. You know, limiter can be off or on, makes no difference. I don't have any noise right now. I have the selectivity down to 500 cycles, or half a kc. I can further reduce it, or let's see what's happening. Maybe I can filter out. Signal's too far away. Well, there's no nearby interfering signal, so I'm not phasing anything. But anyway, this is CW mode. Let's see where I'm at here. I'm at 34.5. So 34.5. Let's see. Yep, there's 34 and a half. Will bring me right over to 70. I'm right about 7034, 7033. You can kind of guesstimate it. So I'm right about 7033 right there. And like I said, after a while, you get used to those graphs, and you can pretty well read them. And you can plot whatever nets or whatever, round tables, whatever regular frequency you want to use. Or if you want to go out and have crystals made, you can. Now, if you get crystals for it, you still have to tune in the frequency of the crystal, because that tunes the front end of the radio. So if I have let's say a 7290 crystal plugged in here, I can flip to it. But I still have to tune up the 7290, which would, by the way, be 65.5 on my logging scale, in order to peak your reception. So it's not that you need the VFO for frequency, because you will have the crystal in there, but you still have to peak the front end for it. So it's kind of neat. And also, that frequency delta tune is meant for variations within the crystal, so you can always have it accurately set. Of course, right now we're going to be on the VFO. And we'll go back to AM. So AM means that I'm going to turn on the ABC, turn down the volume, turn on the modulation, bring the crystal filtering up so that it's wide. Well, you can hear the sidebands in there. That's because we're opened up to 8 kC. I'll bring it down to 3 kC there. That's a little bit better.
It'll sound
there
pretty
you go.
good. Over.
AM amateur. Just bring this audio down. Bring the RF gain up. And wait for this station to come back. See what he's giving us. It looks like we have a standing noise level of about 6 dB over S9. So it's pretty noisy out there. Hey, noisy then.
Yeah, I played around in the contest too over the years.
There you go.
Back in the 70s and 80s, I used to do the GX contests and
60 dB over S9.
I don't know. Even these days, the contests don't really bother me. It's just, during contesting, people have to exercise common courtesy. If the frequencies in use, you don't use it. But, some of that stuff seems to get thrown out the door during the contesting season.
This is called armchair copy.
The ARL contest, this one seems to be pretty mellow. Standing across the band, there doesn't seem to be a lot. Not like the DX contests are, so. Anyway, kind of fun. Anyway, thank you for the call, I appreciate it. And, there's something, you need to go in the manual, because what I'm hearing is, good audio on peaks. But setting up the AM stuff on a lot of these radios is,
Yeah, he's taking a dip there. So he's right there at 7290. Yeah, 66.5 is 7290. Right on the dot. So here we go. That's the SP-600. The controls, how I interface them, how they work in the several modes, and one more thing I might add is that some people do like to copy a sideband or CW with the beat frequency oscillator with the ABC on. You can do that. It's just that the front end is very, very hot, and you'll have to make sure that volume is very, very low when you do that. Right now, I've actually got it in ABC mode. but I find that when it's in manual, when it comes to using the BFO, I find myself having much more control over balancing the BFO signal injection with the incoming signal.
Over the years, I've done it and built a lot of AM transmitters over the years. So, yeah, there's a whole community of folks that certainly enjoy operating AM. And of course, sideband is AM too. That's the other thing people don't realize is single sideband is amplitude modulation as well.
Yes, it is.
But it's just minus one sideband and minus the carrier.
Minus the carrier.
So, there you go. Anyway, thanks for the contact. I'll be listening. And I appreciate the call tonight. And I'll be standing by for anyone here. You know, back years ago, we used to have some real huge plate modulated AM signals out of the band over the years, and those seem to be going away. Sign of the times there. Take care, be good. K1KW, over.
Alrighty, there you go. This is WD4NKA saying 73s, and I'll catch you later.